Okay. I know. Don't do it tonight. Not in the mood. Okay, welcome to the June 24th. All right, Board of Trustees for the Village of Lake Bluff. Could we have a roll call, please?
Trustee Ankman.
Here.
Trustee Charlo.
Present.
Trustee Meyer.
Here.
Trustee Toll.
Here.
Can everybody please stand for the pledge? I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Okay, we have the consideration of the minutes of the June 10th, 2019 Village Board meeting. Do I have a motion, please?
So moved.
Thank you for Ms. Ankerman, and do I have a second?
Second. Mr. Meyer.
Mr. Meyer, I appreciate that. Any changes, considerations to that? None? Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Thank you. At this point in time, we allow up to 15 minutes for people in the audience who would like to speak on items that are not on tonight's agenda. I do believe, I know we have at least one gentleman who from the Great Lakes who would like to talk to us. Please come up, sir.
Thank you. My name is Ken Endress. I work at the Naval Station Great Lakes. I recently took a position that carries the title of Community Planner and Liaison Officer. And one of the purposes of my job is to represent the commanding officer, Captain DeLong, presently the commanding officer there. And I'm reaching out to the various municipalities surrounding Great Lakes. You and North Chicago are our immediate neighbors, so I will periodically be sitting in on your board meetings and be looking at your websites to see if there's anything comes up that affects Great Lakes or things that we do that might affect your communities. I know in the past, since I've been at Great Lakes for 40 years, I've worked with George Russell, one of your former engineers here, and have been very helpful. And presently, Jeff Hansen, I've communicated with him a couple of times over the few years. But in the area, sailors obviously live at Great Lakes, but they also live out in the civilian community. So as we're wanting to be good neighbors, as well as having good community neighbors ourselves. So if there would be anything that would come up that you would want to speak with the commanding officer with, or would like to, at a lower level, have a reason to speak with myself, and I could bring that up to the appropriate people to discuss and handle. I brought several copies of what we call the Great Lakes Manual. Talks a little bit about Great Lakes, what we do there. I think we know it's our Navy's only boot camp, but there's more that happens there. And I would encourage you, and I have several copies that I can leave with the board and the administration to have available for the citizenship.
Well, thank you very, very much. If you'd leave your card too, that would be,
Yeah, I will.
that would be very helpful. I do believe you're probably one of the first that comes to kind of come and try to liaison with us, and we think that's wonderful. And we encourage that. We also think we're Navy-friendly downtown and for our restaurants and stores, and we certainly welcome that. And we know that when you have the graduations, we welcome the parents and everything else, and we often see them in our town, and we're very pleased to have everybody.
I know my office particularly, there's 3 restaurants in the immediate area that we frequently often. So we do enjoy the place.
Well, thank you, and thank you very much for coming tonight.
Thanks.
Appreciate it. Okay. At this point, the village board can set the order of the meeting, and we're going to suggest that we do item number. Okay, number 21, number 11, number 18, and 22. So a little change there, because we have folks in the audience that might want to get through this quickly. We have an ordinance approving a final plat of subdivision and variations from the zoning regulations for 454 Simpson Avenue and 617 East Prospect Avenue. This would be first reading approval. Do I have a motion, please?
So moved.
So moved by Mr. Toll. Do I have a second?
Second.
Second by Ms. Ankerman. In late April 2019, the Village of Lake Bluff was contacted by a surveyor representing Paul and Annie Pezza concerning a proposed land transaction between Susan McMurray, owner of 454 East Simpson Avenue, and the Pezza family, who owners of 617 East Prospect Avenue. The proposed subdivision would consolidate a number of underlying lots for the Pezza family and incorporate 2,812 square feet of transferred land into a single lot of record. Due to existing nonconforming conditions on the property, the subdivision requires a number of variations to approve. The variations only affect the subdivision and do not authorize any new construction on either property contrary to the zoning regulations. At its June 19th meeting, the Plan Commission and Zoning Board of Appeals voted 4-0 to recommend the village board approve the subdivision and the requested variations. Do we have any comments, questions, or anything from our trustees? All right, hearing none. All in favor, first reading approval?
Aye.
Thank you. Okay. Thank you. All right, now we're doing item number 11, which is a resolution approving a sign exemption request at 303 Waukegan Road for Tacos El Norte. Do I have a motion, please?
So moved.
So moved by Mr. Meyer, and a second.
Second.
A second by Mr. Toll. In October 2018, Tacos El Norte received approval from the village board for a rooftop sign over the front entrance to their restaurant at 303 Waukegan Road in the building next to Panera. Tacos El Norte is requesting approval for a second sign to be located on the railing above the roof on the north side of the building facing Waukegan Road. Previous tenants in this space have had two signs, some of them with their second sign on the east end of the building and some with their second sign in this location. The proposed sign will be similar in size and height to the existing Panera sign on the north side of the building. An exemption from the sign code is required because roof signs are not permitted by the sign code. At the June 4th meeting, the Architectural Board of Review unanimously recommended in favor of approving the exemption and the sign. In preparation for the village board's consideration of the request, the neighboring property owners have been notified of the meeting date, and a resolution has been prepared transmitting the ABR's recommendation. A representative of Tacos El Norte, as well as village staff, will be in attendance to answer questions from the board. Does the board have any questions regarding a new sign?
No.
No? All righty, this is a roll call vote for this. Could we have the roll call, please?
Trustee Ankerman.
Aye.
Trustee Charlo.
Aye.
Trustee Meyer.
Aye.
Trustee Toll.
Aye.
Okay, number 18, and I believe we have, is this the existing one, or did we have a new? Is there a change to that? Yeah. Okay, let's do that. This is an ordinance providing for the issuance of not to exceed $1,840,000 general obligation refunding bond, Series 2019, of the Village of Lake Bluff, Lake County, Illinois. Do I have a motion?
So moved.
So moved by Ms. Ankerman. Do I have a second?
Second, Mr. Meyer.
Second, Mr. Meyer. Thank you. This would be first reading approval, and which is a voice vote, and waive second reading and approve the ordinance, roll call vote, so that we can move ahead with this. All right, the village has identified $1,840,000 in capital projects for its water system, including water meter replacement, water main replacement, and valve repairs that will pay for through the issuance of general obligation bonds, Series 2019. Issuance of the bonds was last discussed at the March 11, 2019 Village Finance Committee meeting. The bonds will be a general obligation of the village, but it is the village intent to abate the property tax each year and pay the debt service on the bonds with system revenues. Financing of the project through the issuance of the bonds will allow the village to spread the cost of the project over a period of 15 years. As a part of the issuance project, the village has had a rating review with Moody's Investor Services. After review of the bonds, the socioeconomic conditions of the village and its finances, Moody's affirmed the village's AAA rating and assigned the AAA rating to issuance of the bonds. This is the highest rating that can be assigned and is a testament to the strong credit of the village. The village and its municipal advisor, Spear Financial, conduct a competitive sale for the issuance of the bond on the morning of June 24th. The bonds were awarded to the underwriter that provided the lowest true interest cost for the issuance. A final bond ordinance is attached with the purchaser's information and all final interest rates on June 24th, 2019. A representative from Spear Financial will be present to discuss the outcome of the bond sale and answer any questions. Board, do you have questions of this? Does our finance director would like to elaborate on any of this?
No.
No?
I mean,
Okay.
it's a bit anticlimactic because we just covered it in the finance committee meeting right
Correct,
before this.
but this
But for the
is
good of the
public.
audience, perhaps we should bring back our finance advisor, financial advisor back to the,
Okay, is the gentleman here?
Yes, he
he is. Okay. Of course he's here.
this time you do need to go to the microphone.
Yeah, this time up here, please, sir. Thank you.
Is it the board's pleasure just to have a quick summary? Great. I think the first essential step was, again, the Moody's rating. There was the Moody's report, and I believe that that was the first step to get a wonderful sale today for the village's bonds. The bond market itself is, has been very favorable. So you're issuing into a very good market. You had 4 bidders with 16 bids. With our auction system that we use, a bidder is able to see what place he's in, not exactly the interest rate. So they have an opportunity to rebid the bonds to see if they can get, even lower. So through this rebid situation, this auction saved $12,000 by the rebidding process, and you ended up with a TIC, or true interest cost, as the mayor said, of 2.56%, which is wonderful. Again, we modeled this at 3.15 or so. The actual costs came in, as the bids came in, a little lower for the underwriter's compensation. So the bond issue was downsized, so you're borrowing less bonds than originally were proposed. There isn't really much to say that's negative about this. It's a wonderful sale, a lot of good syndicates. I think, again, it starts with the financial position of the village, being very responsible. Again, the Moody's report highlights that. I'm here to answer any additional questions. I wish I had this kind of good news to bring to other clients, but this has worked out extremely well.
Thank you very much.
Sure, thank you.
Just so that's Dan Forbes, is the president of
Yes,
Spear
my
Financial, the
apologies.
village's finance.
Dan Forbes, president
Thank
of
you.
Spear Financial.
And do you think it would be possible to talk about, we've talked about the inflow, then talk about the outflow and kind of what we might expect to see in the next year or two
Sure.
regarding
Jeff,
that?
Yeah, Jeff, would you come up really quick? But essentially, there's really 3 major initiatives as part of that. And the village issued resolution of our intent to issue debt a few months ago, knowing that we were going to start spending money in this regard. So the village is doing replacement of water mains, 3 areas.
Cambridge Lane, Armour Drive, and East Sheridan Place in front of the school.
The other major initiative is replacing all the water meters in the community. And the third part is,
Hydrants and valves, we exercised a lot of our valves over the winter and the spring, and many of them didn't work. We have one of them that we know is broken and shut, and we have at least one hydrant that's out of service and doesn't work now either.
so the village is replacing this aged water infrastructure in the community, which is important, obviously, for multiple reasons, to have potable water, but also for fire suppression and so forth. Another element to this is the village, as everyone knows here, that we acquire water from CLC Jawa, and our water system, like most water systems that are old, will leak, and the idea of the village wants to maximize our capture of those dollars and make sure we're getting every bit through the meters and capturing that. and also accounting for all the water flow that we can. These improvements will go directly to that. So giving the village better data to monitor its system and also find out if and when there are leaks in the system a lot faster.
And so in the next fiscal year, would we, have most of this project done with all those different elements?
Water-
Those three things will be done by the end of this fiscal year.
Thank you.
Okay, any other questions? All right, hearing none. First, reading approval. All in favor?
Aye.
All righty, do I have a motion to waive second reading and approve the ordinance, which will be a roll call vote? Do I have a motion to do that?
So moved.
Thank you by Mr. Toll, second.
Second.
A second by Mr. Charlot. All right, any questions or things about second reading? Would you roll call, please? Thank you.
Trustee Charlo.
Aye.
Trustee Meyer.
Aye.
Trustee Toll.
Aye.
Trustee Ankerman.
Aye.
And Ben, does President O'Hare need to vote on that?
She does not.
Okay.
So we're okay with 4?
Yep.
Yep. Okay.
Okay, great.
Thank you.
Thank you. And thanks for the very good news. We appreciate it,
Thank you, Dan.
Thank you.
especially the rating. Okay, we're now to the, back to the regular, no, we're not, I'm sorry. We have number 22, which is an ordinance granting a variation from the village's parking setback regulation, denying a variation from the village's frontage yard regulations, and approving a site plan. And this is at 101 Waukegan Road, and this would be first reading approval. Do I have a motion?
So moved.
So moved by Ms. Ankerman. Do I have a second?
Second.
A second by Mr. Toll. We have a question?
Before we go on, I apologize. On the last one, you do need to vote. It's 2/3 of the members, including the president, so I apologize.
Okay.
So
what
for the
would you-
record,
For the record, I vote aye. Okay, yes, okay.
but same, that's for both first
Yes,
reading
for-
and second
And
reading.
second
And I
reading,
apologize,
yes.
yes.
That's okay, thank you. All right, so,
22.
okay, thank you for number 22. Blah, 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 blah. All righty, okay, so this is first reading approval. On April 22nd, 2019, the Village of Lake Bluff received a zoning variation application from J. Emil Anderson and Son Incorporated to expand the parking lot of 101 Waukegan Road into the property's Waukegan Road frontage. The expansion, as proposed, required site plans approval by the Architectural Board of Review, as well as 2 forms of zoning relief: the construction of parking stalls within a setback and the relocation of an existing smoking shelter within a setback. The project is notable for being the first by right parking lot in the rear 500 feet of the Waukegan Road setback enabled by ordinance 2018-31. The ABR site plan review first considered this item at its May regular meeting. The ABR continued the public hearing to allow the applicant to revise their plans to reduce the parking provided at the northwestern corner of the lot to provide additional green space, add landscape peninsulas within the west parking row, add additional landscape screening along the western lot line, and provide lighting details. With these changes, the ABR recommended approval at its June regular meeting. The PCA variation review, and at its June 19th meeting, the Plan Commission and Zoning Board of Appeals voted 4-0 to recommend to the Village Board: 1, approve a variation to allow the construction of 7 additional parking stalls closer than permitted to the carriageway lot line. Deny a variation to allow the relocation of a smoking shelter within the setback provided for structures from Waukegan Road. Members of the PCZBA concurred that to enable the proposed work was contrary to public health. The zoning regulations would require the affirmative vote of 4 trustees to set aside the PCZBA's recommendation and approve the variation. Do we have any comments and questions from the board?
Yes. Certainly smoking I view as a public health threat, no doubt about that. The question I have is that in the spirit of denying this proposed variation to have a smoking shelter that's relocated, My concern is that without that smoking shelter, those who choose to smoke may actually pose a greater public health threat by congregating within our ordinance limits of 25 feet of any door, particularly in winter. So certainly it is a salutary intention to say you're not going to have your smoking shelter, but I wonder if what we might be doing by not having it is driving that activity closer to those people who don't desire to have it near them. So that's my concern with where we're at here.
And just a point of clarification, as I understand it, and maybe the petitioner can come up to clarify, but presently there is a smoking shelter on the north side, and that the plan included adding an additional shelter on the south side?
Correct,
And that, under the new plan, that the north shelter will remain, correct?
correct.
And the idea was to have an additional shelter out of convenience for other smokers on the south side, but that was in the 100-foot setback area.
Correct. I believe it was a couple feet past the setback. There are 2 smoking shelters currently at the site. The building's somewhere around 100,000 square feet. We owned a office building for several years. It was 125,000 square feet with 1 smoking shelter, and it was sufficient. The amount of smokers can change in a building as time goes on. Sometimes there'll be a lot, sometimes not that many, but there is 1 on the site. We feel it would be adequate.
Yeah, that addresses my concern. I had thought that there'd be 0.
Yeah.
Okay, so there will be one, and you feel comfortable that would suffice for the smokers?
There would be, and I guess I could always come back and look for another location on the site if we ran into a situation where we were looking for another one.
Okay, but at this point in time, you feel comfortable with this?
We do, and I think it's good even having one, having people, let's say you can't even smoke on the site, having them walk out to the street and smoke, it's not safe, it doesn't look good for the village. It's not a perfect solution, but the best I think we can get.
Okay, thank you, sir.
All right.
Thank you.
Appreciate that. Does anyone else have a question?
All set.
All set, okay, this is for first reading. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Thank you. Okay, now we're going to go back to the regular agenda, and we are now with the village finance report. We have the warrant reports for June 16th through 30th, and do I have a motion to approve?
So moved.
So moved by Mr. Toll, and a second.
Second.
Second by Mr. Meyer. We have expenditures of village funds for payment of invoices in the amount of $184,295.09 for June 16th to June 30th. Any questions for our finance director regarding these disbursements? All right, hearing none, roll call, please.
Trustee Meyer.
Aye.
Trustee Toll.
Aye.
Trustee Ankman.
Aye.
Trustee Charlo.
Aye.
All right, we also now have the April 2019 financial report. Do I have a motion to accept?
So moved.
So moved by Ms. Ankerman, and a second.
Second.
Second by Mr. Toll, and I'd ask our finance director to highlight that, please.
Sure. In summary, sales tax revenue on a cash basis for fiscal year 19, May through March, of $2.9 million is about 0.07% greater than the same reporting period for fiscal year 2018. Home rule sales tax for fiscal year 19, May through March, of $844,490 is 5.2% less than the same reporting period for fiscal year 18, with an annual administrative fee total to the state for $12,828. Building permit revenues for May through April fiscal year 19, $399,066 compared to the $528.10 for May through April of 2018. Fiscal year 19, May through February telecom tax receipts of $187,735 are $31,136, or 20% greater than May through February's receipts from fiscal year 18. And this significant spike in collections was due to an audit that the state allocation department performed, and they are one-time increases in catch-up or failed or incorrectly filed returns. May through April at fiscal year 19, expenditures of 10.7 million are about 1.2 million greater than the expenditures for the same period of fiscal year 18. Capital expenditures year-to-date are 1.7 or 1.3 million greater than the year-to-date expenses from fiscal year 18. This can be attributed to the train station improvements, the audio-visual equipment in the boardroom, and non-MFT paving expenses. Current expenditures are consistent or less than with budget.
Thank you. Any questions for our finance director?
Just one, is there anything coming from Springfield about the improvement or worsening of our relationship with them as far as our finances are concerned?
Do you mean?
Status quo?
Yeah,
Inter-
it's
LTD.
right.
Status
Yeah.
quo,
Well,
is there
since,
new
the-
administration,
has it-
are we getting anything,
Oh,
any
we have,
changes?
it's gonna, in terms of what they are taking from us?
Yes.
No, that will, for the next year, will remain the same. They are adjourned for the summer, so hopefully no more damage, no more
damage will be done.
done for at least the next couple of months. But it is the status quo, in other words, same as last year. We are hoping to make some more headway next year.
We were not the recipient of any capital dollars.
No, we did not. The library did receive $100,000, but we did not, nor did any other government entity in Lake Bluff on that. So that's where we are with that.
Thank you.
Okay, any other questions? All right, all in favor?
Aye.
Thank you very much. Okay. We have the village administrator's report.
Other than it's summertime and there is an event, seems like per daily special event happening. This weekend we had multiple events, including the History Museum's car show, which was, again, I set some new records for them in terms of participation, in terms of vehicles and crowds. The weather could not have been better. And it was just a wonderful event in all regards. There were also some other events in the community. Lake Bluff Open Lands had an event, summer solstice gathering down at the lakefront on Saturday evening as well. The Park District had sponsored a run, the Go Color Run, which took place along the McClory Trail, and the village's train station was the rest stop and fuel stop for that, and that's sold out as well. So it's busy, and more to come. So the village had sent out, I believe it was last week, the Buzz on the Bluff cards that went to all Lake Forest and Lake Bluff households, announcing all the special events. And that's, I guess, our cautionary tale to pace yourself for the summer. So.
Okay. All right, that's it for okay. Village attorney's report.
No report.
Okay. Village president's report, yes, the car show was a great success. There were 150 cars, which is about 20 or so more than last year, so it's every year it seems to be picking up. So I have heard back that it was a great success. I was out of town, but it was good. Just to remind everybody, we have one of probably the biggest event of the year, which is coming up, which is our 4th of July. So that will be coming up on a Thursday. We expect crowds in excess of almost 25,000. And a great day, hopefully, will happen. The only thing that could mar it is the weather. So hopefully we won't have that issue. Okay, that's all I have for right now. Number 10, next on our list is the acceptance of the correspondence. All correspondence was delivered to the Village Board of Trustees in the informational reports on June 7th and 14th. Do I have a motion to accept the correspondence?
So moved.
So moved by Ms. Ankerman, and do I have a second?
Second.
Second by Mr. Toll. All in favor?
Aye.
Thank you. All right, item number 12, we're back on the agenda. A resolution regarding the zoning, regulation, and licensing of recreational cannabis businesses. Do I have a motion, please? No, I don't need a motion for, yeah, I do
Yes,
need a
you do.
motion. Yes, I do.
A motion to discuss, not a motion to approve of.
Well, it's a motion, it's a referral to.
Yes.
It's a
the
referral,
Yes.
it's a referral resolution. It's
So
not,
moved.
yeah, got it.
Yeah.
Okay, yeah, got it clear. Okay,
And
it's a
you have a
referral.
second, Mr. Meyer.
Okay, so I have referral approval, thank you. So just to clarify all this, on June 6, 2019, the Illinois General Assembly passed House Bill 1438, titled the Cannabis Regulation and Tax Act, which legalizes the sale, possession, and use of cannabis sativa?
Sativa, yes.
What is that?
It's the Latin term to identify genus species, the Cannabis sativa sal.
I flunked Latin, so I
Seems to
am
know a lot about
sorry
this,
about
Drew.
that. Okay, thank you.
Forensic chemist days coming back to me quickly.
That was new to me. I didn't know. Okay, thank you. The horrors of Latin class. Okay, and its derivatives and subspecies for recreational purposes by adults over age 21, starting January 1st, 2020. The act grants limited authority to municipalities to regulate commercial cannabis facilities, including cultivation centers, dispensaries, infusers, processors, and craft growers intending to serve recreational customers. The act authorizes municipalities to completely prohibit the location and operation of cannabis businesses, restrict the cannabis businesses to specific zoning districts, require cannabis businesses to obtain special use permit to operate, and condition the grant of a special use permit on compliance with certain regulatory restrictions. The act also allows municipalities to impose a local retailer occupation tax of up to 3% on the retail purchase price of cannabis, and to determine whether and under what conditions cannabis businesses may allow for on-premise consumption of cannabis. The village has a long tradition of utilizing its zoning and planning authority to ensure that compatible uses are maintained in its various neighborhoods. Title 10 of the Lake Bluff Municipal Code does not plainly address uses that would encompass cannabis business. And while the zoning ordinance classifies medical cannabis dispensaries as allowable uses pursuant to a special use permit in certain districts, this does not permit the service recreational customers. Cultivation centers are not allowable uses in any zoning district in the village. In the absence of explicit provisions in the zoning ordinance that authorize the use of property for recreational cannabis businesses, recreational cannabis businesses are currently prohibited in the village in all zoning districts. With the approval of this resolution, the Village Board of Trustees is directing the PCZBA to evaluate the classification of cannabis businesses and recommend to the Board of Trustees whether any, some, or all types of cannabis businesses should be allowed by special use permit under the zoning ordinance, as well as such other regulations as may be necessary, important, or beneficial to the village and its residents, including without limitation whether and under what conditions should on-premise consumption of recreation cannabis be allowed. Any questions or anything before I
Well,
make a statement?
I will tell you my point of view. These activities remain illegal under federal law, under the Controlled Substances Act, 21 U.S.C. 811. So therefore, I cannot support and will vote against any provision that permits marijuana activities in Lake Bluff. Neither states nor municipalities ought to legislate contrary to federal law. I will vote yes on this resolution insofar as it calls for the PCZBA to have a public meeting to discuss the issues, but certainly I would, from my point of view, direct them to take the option, the path of the greatest restriction.
Okay.
Well said, and I support that as well. I never thought we would be discussing this at this level. And it's, I think it's just a really scary road that the nation, but Illinois at this point is going down. So I think that restricting it is the best idea.
Okay, anybody?
I'm all in favor of the PCZBA having the discussion. However, I will caution them as well that I think our state is trying to find any possible thing to tax to create revenue, and this just may be the start. So if we can nip it in the bud now, at least in Lake Bluff, perhaps that might send a message. So.
Okay.
I will vote yes to this resolution. However, I will agree with the previous two trustees.
Okay, anybody else? Do you want to say?
I will vote yes to this resolution as well, and I will follow Trustee Myers in his advice. I don't believe that's a conversation that's going to be over, and I think we should keep our eyes open on that.
Okay, good point. But at this point, we're going to look at this resolution. Let me have a voice vote. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
I am going to ask that direction be given to the PCZBA that the village board would like to see that there will be absolute prohibition of any dispensaries or any of that type within the village limits of Lake Bluff. And that's what we would like to see. Okay? All right. Okay, number 13 is a resolution waiving competitive bidding and authorizing the execution of a construction contract for roof coating and skylight replacement at the Public Works Garage. Going to be prettying up things over there?
Only things you can't see.
Yeah, okay, just gonna look pretty, okay, all right, good. All righty, do I have a motion to adopt this resolution?
So moved?
So moved by Mr. Meyer, and a second.
Second.
Second by Mr. Charlot. Okay, so the garage for Public Works vehicles is a 9,500 square foot insulated metal pole barn that was constructed approximately 35 years ago. In recent years, the roof has been leaking. The village budgeted $57,500 in the current fiscal year to waterproof the roof. To that end, staff obtained quotes from 3 contractors to install a waterproof adhesive membrane on the existing roof. 2 of those contractors also provided quotes for the replacement of the translucent fiberglass skylight panels. 2 of the contractors are member of the governmental cooperative purchasing organizations. Anthony Ruthven Tecta America LLC is a member of the National Cooperative Purchasing Alliance, and SR Products is a member of the TIPS Purchasing Cooperative. The village has obtained a quote from Waukegan Roofing Company for a total of $41,400 for both the skylight replacement and roof coating. This quote is $30,000 less than the total from the high bidder and more than $8,300 less than the mid-price bidder's quote for roof coating alone. Accordingly, staff recommends the village waive competitive bidding and award a contract to Waukegan Roofing Company in the amount of $41,400 to replace the skylights and install a new roof membrane. Do we have any questions or things for our maintenance supervisor?
I just want to ask I'm trying to understand the process. So when we have a request for bids, that's how we obtain, people who say, our company would like to do this job based on your specs, and this is how much it would cost. So wasn't that what occurred with the 2 that are in the purchasing alliance, or no?
No,
Okay.
this is kind of like, this is following legal advice, is if it's fuzzy or gray, just go through the most legally proper process, which is to waive competitive biddings. But our procurement policies allow the village to accept prices through joint procurements. Both of the bids provided were through joint procurement pricing.
Okay,
They weren't exact specs, because it's just like when you go pick out a paint or how you're going to treat your surface, they're selling a certain product type, right?
right,
So,
and you want something specific for your specific.
well, we want to cure the leak, and we say,
Yeah.
so we didn't define the method or means, and so we give us a price. So it's something that we've learned. I'm drawing on Mike Croak and I, the building code supervisor, who's also our facilities manager. We had a conversation earlier today about this very thing, is when we redid the flooring at the firehouse and the bays there's an epoxy coating.
Mm-hmm.
And there are a variety of product epoxies that people sell, and at the end of the day, what's the differences between them? And we want the floor redone, and as it turns out, based off multiple conversations, it's the pre-work, right? It's how you sand the floor and how you prep it, and you could probably put down icing and it would do the job because of the way you prepped it, right? So the same with this roof type is that we secured quotes from firms skilled in doing this act, but we didn't define specifically, we didn't want to create a bid specification, hire an architect to do that, because the cost would have probably could dramatically
Outweigh.
increase the
Mhm.
project.
Right.
And didn't make sense. So we went to the professionals and said, how would you solve this problem? And so they gave us the pricing. Yes, they were agencies that were giving us pricing based off a joint procurement government agency pricing, which satisfies our policy. However, because we didn't do a straight sealed bid process, this is the safest way to award the project without creating problems from competitors that didn't win the award.
Okay, and then the understanding that there's one that was, an obvious choice due to the lower cost,
And we actually have experience with them as well. They've done other work for the village.
that's kind of what I was wondering is,
Yeah.
do we have an understanding of why that would be, or at least a comfort level for the provider of the services that we have confidence that it's a solid choice?
They did repairs that have been working fine at the PSB
Okay.
for us.
Thank you.
Any other questions or comments? All right, roll call vote, please.
Trustee Toll.
Aye.
Trustee Anchorman.
Aye.
Trustee Shiloh.
Aye.
Trustee Meyer.
Aye.
Okay, we have a resolution approving a professional engineering services agreement with HLR Inc., design and bidding services for lift station projects. Do I have a motion, please?
So moved.
So moved by Mr. Meyer, and do I have a second?
Second?
Second by Ms. Ankerman. Okay, this is a consideration. This will be a roll call vote when we do this. So the village's FY20 budget includes $38,000 designated for professional services related to the design and bidding of a project to replace aging equipment at the Lakeland and Forest Cover sanitary sewer lift stations. The equipment in both lift stations has reached the end of its useful life, and maintenance costs has risen in recent years. Failed valves at both lift stations and an inoperable pump at the Lakeland lift station have left the facilities vulnerable to potential failure. Funding for the construction of the project will be requested in the village's FY21 budget, and if approved, construction would be scheduled in the summer or fall of 2020. The village requested and received a proposal from HLR Inc. for an amount not to exceed $36,946 to perform the design and bidding professional services for the project. HLR has successfully completed similar services for other lift stations in the village in recent years, and it is recommended, that the board approve the proposal from HLR Inc. for an amount not to exceed $36,946. Any questions for staff on this one? All right, roll call, please.
Trustee Anchorman.
Aye.
Trustee Shiloh.
Aye.
Trustee Meyer.
Aye.
Trustee Toll.
Aye.
An ordinance granting a variation from the village's gross floor area and side yard setback regulations, and this would be for 224 East Center Avenue. This is second reading consideration, which would be a voice vote, and we had the first reading at the last meeting. Do I have a motion, please?
So moved.
So moved, okay, by Mr. Toll, and second.
Second?
Second by Ms. Anchorman. At its regular meeting in May, the PCZBA held a public hearing to consider granting the following variations concerning 224 East Center Avenue upon the application of its owners, Harry and Lois Nickel. A 249-foot variation, which is 10% from the maximum gross floor area restrictions of Section 10-5-6 to allow for the construction of an addition to be used as kitchen and storage space, and a 1-foot 3.5-inch variation, which is 25.8% from the village's R4 side yard setback restrictions of Section 10-5G-2 to allow the relocation of an air conditioner condenser within the addition footprint. At the conclusion of the public hearing, the PCZBA voted unanimously to recommend approval of the variations with the condition that the storage component of the addition shall not be converted for habitation at a later date. Additionally, within the approving motion, the PCZBA indicated desire for the applicant to again contact an adjacent owner who has not provided testimony. Since the PCZBA's meeting, the adjacent owner has provided a letter which has been attached, expressing no objection to the requested variations. The ordinance has been amended since first reading to include a condition recommended by the PCZBA concerning air conditioner screening that was omitted in error. Okay? Any questions and things regarding second reading on this? Hearing none, all in favor?
Aye.
You. An ordinance granting a variation from the village's minimum front yard setback regulations, and this is for 407 East Prospect. This again is second reading consideration. Do I have a motion?
So moved.
Second,
Okay, Mr. Meyer, and then second by Mr. Toll.
other way around.
Other way around? Sorry about that. Okay, reverse that. At its regular meeting in May, the PCZBA held a public hearing to consider granting 407 East Prospect Avenue an 8.75-foot variation, which is 44% from the minimum front yard setbacks of Section 10-5-3 of the village's zoning regulations to allow the construction of an open front porch. At the conclusion of the public hearing, PCZBA voted unanimously to recommend approval of the variation with a condition that the width of a protruding step be reduced to 5 foot 6 inches, a typical step width used elsewhere in zoning regulations. Village Board approved the first reading at its June 10th meeting. Any comments regarding second reading approval? All in favor?
Aye.
Thank you. Number 17, which is a resolution approving easements by and between the village and respective owners of 217 West Sheridan Place, 219 West Sheridan Place, and 370 Lincoln Avenue. This will be for consideration on this one, and do I have a motion?
So moved.
So moved by Ms. Ankerman, and do I have a second?
Second.
Second by Mr. Meyer?
Mr. Sherlock.
Mr. Sherlock, I'm sorry, sir. You're not- All right, on May 13th, the village board awarded the construction of the Lincoln Avenue and West Sheridan Place storm sewer improvement projects to Campanella and Sons of Wadsworth. Construction is scheduled to begin after July 4th and will extend into September, with the exception of a...
I'm sorry.
Yes?
I'm sorry. There was
I
an
was
error.
close.
I know, you were doing great, and this is, I'm just stopping you to tell you you're doing great. And at the same time, to identify that for clarification and necessity, the second reading of the ordinance needs to be, that was previously just approved on a voice vote. It should actually be a roll call vote because it is second and final reading.
This is item 15.
Item 15, to clarify.
Okay.
And that was a typo on there, and I apologize for that typo because that was misleading, and
Yes, it was.
that's my fault. I apologize.
Okay. All right, let's finish this one, and then we'll go back and do that, okay? All right, okay.
Sorry to interrupt you, ma'am.
Well, thank you, sir. With the exception of 187 linear feet on private property, all the storm sewer improvements will be constructed within existing village right-of-way or state property. Where the improvements occur on private property, village staff has successfully negotiated with 2 of the 3 property owners to secure easements to install the new storm water infrastructure and maintain these improvements in perpetuity. In order to complete all of the proposed improvements with the contractor, staff is now seeking approval of the easement agreements with the various property owners. Terms and conditions of the easement agreements are consistent with past agreements of this nature and have been drafted by the village attorney. What happens with the third one that has not been negotiated?
Yeah, so we have had a handful of conversations with them, and basically the most recent conversation is that they requested that we check back in with them again. Their house is on the market, they're trying to sell it. They weren't looking for anything to clutter that up, like a lot of construction. And unfortunately, the timing of these things collided. And so they asked that we meet with them again post pre-construction meeting with Campanella, our contractor, and we're at that point now to have that meeting and sit down with them and say, and check in on the progress of their sale, because they had indicated that they would potentially go ahead and execute this agreement because we wanted to take advantage of all the mess, essentially, and only disturb the area once. The good news is the village's plan B is that if we do not secure the easement with the current owners, that we will tee out this connection point. So in the future, this final element of this stormwater improvement can be completed outside of the roadway. It can be done in a way that won't disturb the entire neighborhood again, and we can do that because of the wide roadway width, the right-of-way width there. Additionally, we were also waiting on pricing, and I don't know if we ever got that. No, there's another way. So presently, the way the project was bid and awarded, it would be an open-cut trench to install the pipe in this one particular leg where we need the 3 easements and where we have 2 of the 3. But the contractor thought there may be a method of construction to do it directionally drilling it, which could be much less disruptive and would essentially be, 2 or 3 holes along the way as opposed to an open trench, minimal disturbance. So we think if we get favorable pricing, we'll be able to go back and say, hey, good news, we don't need to tear up your whole yard. We can do this really quickly and you won't even know we're there. So we're waiting on that too. But so that's why we put these forward now, though, is because these terms are essentially identical for all the property owners and don't call for any great, or really any very small expenditure of village funds. It's very, very simple project, and we just wanted to make sure that everybody's comfortable with the terms and the form of agreement. We've again created this with village attorney and hoping just to get the approval, then go out and seal the deal with them, assuming we can get the final parties to agree and get all 3 of it and get it all done this year.
If it were a phased thing, what would it be in terms of an incremental cost for the total? Like the total project would cost X, but if we phase it, it would be X plus.
We had to break off this little leg.
I mean, I know you don't know exactly, I'm
So,
just trying to,
we'd have to get a price for the piece at the time we're gonna build it, but it is a small enough piece that it's easy for a local contractor to do, or a smaller outfit. Campanella's doing I think this contract is $700,000. Our local people that we work with can do this other small piece through the yards without a problem, so we'll be able to go out for pricing on that, and just take this piece out of Campanella's contract if we can't get the 3rd easement, leave it sit. Hopefully if the house sells, talk to the new owner, and he'll want to make friends with his neighbors, and we'll get the pipe put in, as soon as we can. But we're, committed to getting this done because it is a crucial piece to help the flooding
right.
of a couple of homes. So we want to get as much done as we can, and then as soon as we get the property, to go ahead and finish the project. So I don't think incrementally, the cost might be slightly higher, but it could be okay just because so many more people can do that work.
Got it.
Good price.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, anybody else on that have any questions? Okay, roll call, please.
Trustee Meyer.
Aye.
Trustee Toll.
Aye.
Trustee Ankman.
Aye.
Trustee Sherlow.
Aye.
Okay, we need to go back and roll call number 16.
15?
15,
Or
I'm sorry.
I think it's both. Yeah, we
15.
did voice on both, and it should be roll call, so.
All right, can we do it at once, or we have to do each one individually?
They're different items, I would suggest.
Do it
different.
individually, okay, so we'll do it number, 15 first?
15.
50, okay. Roll call, please.
Trustee Toll.
Aye.
Trustee Ankman.
Aye.
Trustee Sherlow.
Aye.
Trustee Meyer.
Aye.
We'll also now do that for number 16 when you're available.
Trustee Ankman.
Aye.
Trustee Sherlow.
Aye.
Trustee Meyer.
Aye.
Trustee Toll.
Aye.
Okay, all right, we are now up to, all right, number 19, which is a resolution approving a professional engineering service agreement with V3 Companies Limited, which will be the Robert McClory North Shore Path Lighting Project. Do I have a motion, please?
So moved.
Thank you, Mr. Toll, and a second.
Second.
And second by Mr. Charlot. Yep. All right, the villages, and this will be a roll call, the village's FY '20 budget includes $170,000 for the design, bidding, and construction of a project to install lighting on portions of the Robert McClory and North Shore bike paths. When completed, the project will illuminate the path starting with the village path at the intersection of Maugham Avenue and West Center Avenue to the north, then east along the North Shore bike path through Sheridan Road underpass, and then south on both the upper and lower portions of the Robert McClory bike path to the intersection of Sheridan Road and East Sheridan Place. I have waited for years for this. Okay, thank you all. And I think the children and the people on that bike path will thank you too. The village worked with V3 companies in 2018 to define the project limits, establish what level of lighting would be appropriate, and decide what type of pole and fixture would meet the needs of the village. With this information, we are ready to proceed to the final design and building stage of the project. The village requested and received a proposal from V3 companies for the amount not to exceed $24,000 to perform the design, bidding, and construction observation services for this project. V3 companies has qualified personnel to complete the project, and it is recommended that the board approve the proposal from HRC for amount not to exceed $24,000. Are there any questions on this one? If you have ever taken that bike path, as many middle school children do, it can get real dark there at night.
And high schoolers.
And high
commuters,
schoolers and
commuter.
commuters and everybody else. It can get very, very dark. And you've got ice and everything else, and I think this will be a great asset. I know when they put the lighting in, it will be special. It won't be the glaring ballpark lighting, will it?
No, we were looking at a pretty simple post and light design, it's a square post, and
Fixture is there.
that was the fixture head we were looking at. So kind of similar to the ones we put at the train station parking lot
Okay.
a few years ago, only much
Mhm.
shorter. With the tree canopy, we can't go that high that we could light up the ballpark anyway. So I think they're 15 feet high, spaced as you can see on this other page down here. So that was our preliminary layout that they helped us with last year. And, they're really, until you get close to the houses over by Mountain and West Center, it is kind of open land, but make sure that we don't flood somebody's bedrooms with light.
So-
Thank you, Jeff.
There's two other related items. This is the project that was planned for last year, but we punted it with the hopes of getting that Safe Routes to School grant, in which we did not succeed in. So we're bringing this back, and hopefully pricing comes in within the budget, so you'll see it again. But it's, this is the final design elements and bidding.
Yeah, this contract will get us bid out, and their construction services is in this contract, which we'll see if we approve a contract for construction, then we'll do that last $4,000.
And the part two is that I don't know if you can highlight and bring it closer to the bridge. Jeff, you want to talk about our joint project with the county? That's another project that we've been working on,
So
so.
the pedestrian bridge here, we have preliminary plans that have gone to us in the county. We're putting comments on them. So this, I think this bridge project will probably happen next spring, kind of late in this fiscal year. We'll get it out to bids this fall for construction as soon as they can in the winter and the spring. That'll be about 4 weeks while they change the ped bridge here. Right now, it's 4 feet wide. It's concrete. There's a chain link cage around it. The new one will be 8 feet wide, so bikes can pass each other and will look a lot nicer. But that will be happening maybe at the same time as the lighting. I'm hoping to get the lighting in sooner so that it can be ready for winter when we have nice evenings in February when it's dark at 4 o'clock.
This is,
Yes.
it's all part of the village's initiatives to be more pedestrian and bicycle friendly,
Friendly, right. And
which is teeing up
I think it's also a
sustainability.
great safety initiative.
Yeah.
Really, that's great. Okay, roll call, please.
Trustee Sherlock.
Aye.
Trustee Meyer.
Aye.
Trustee Toll.
Aye.
Trustee Ankman.
Aye.
Okay, resolution adopting the village's sustainability plan. Do I have a motion?
So moved.
So moved by Mr. Charlo. Do I have a second?
I'm sorry, that
Meyer.
was Mr. Meyer.
Mr. Meyer, I'm sorry. Having a little trouble distinguishing tonight. My apologies.
So you need a second?
Second.
Second, Ms. Anchorman.
Mhm.
Got that. Okay, since the creation of the SEC by the village board on October 26, 2015, has been charged with the development of a sustainability plan. During this time, the SEC has balanced accomplishing its other board mandates and referrals with progressive planning, which most recently culminated in a Cal workshop in early 2017 to discuss a work plan that formed the foundation for the sustainability plan. The attached plan, developed over the past 24 months, includes 24 action steps across the following 7 goal areas. Solid waste management and recycling. Achieve recycling rates over 60% through a combination of waste reduction, materials reuse, and active promotion and expansion of recycling. Energy conservation. Leverage improvements in energy efficiency and alternative energy to reduce Lake Bluff's single largest source of carbon emissions. Water conservation, continue to reduce per capita usage of Lake Michigan water. Stormwater solutions, become more resilient to national hazards and our changing climate by implementing professional stormwater management practices that incorporate natural features. Natural spaces, restore and protect Lake Bluff's valuable, unique, and native natural resources. Light pollution, balance economic and security needs with our small-town character and charm. Bicycle and pedestrian transportation, promote transportation methods that impose lesser impact on our environment, promote our health, and improve our recreational opportunities and quality of life. At its June 3rd, 2019 meeting, the SCC unanimously recommend that the village board adopt the plan. A resolution to that effect has been prepared for the board's consideration. At the same meeting, the SCC indicated desire to prioritize the following 5 actions presented in no specific order. Partnerships to remove invasive species as a complement to the landscape playbook. Light pollution, including a proposal of a dark sky lighting ordinance. Continued study and pursuit of public stormwater improvements to advance resiliency. Bicycle parking and facilities in the central business district. General outreach on sustainability, especially recycling and waste and/or pesticides and lawn care. Any questions or comments regarding this plan? I think it's very ambitious, and I think it's,
4 years in the making.
no, it's been a time, we've been aiming for it, and they did get sidetracked with several other items that we asked them to look at, but I think this is good in a first start, so we see how this all plays out in the next couple of years. Okay, this would be a roll call, please.
Trustee Meyer.
Aye.
Trustee Toll.
Aye.
Trustee Ankerman.
Aye.
Trustee Charlo.
Aye.
All righty, trustees report, do we have any trustee? Trustees report, anybody have anything to discuss, talk about, confess? Anybody? Everybody
Probably
okay?
said enough tonight.
Okay.
There is a confession.
Whoa, okay. All righty, we do not have executive session material for tonight, so do I have a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Second.
Move it. Okay, and seconded by Mr. Meyer. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Thank you all very much, appreciate it.